Well, some Liberals are speaking out and pretty forcefully against the actions of Jody Wilson-Raybould and Jane Philpott. One of them is Sheila Copps, a former cabinet minister and deputy prime minister. She joins me via Skype from Mexico. Sheila Copps, it's good to speak with you again. What do you think of the actions of Jody Wilson-Raybould and Jane Philpott and the effect they're having on the Liberal government?
Well, I mean, I never knew Jody Wilson-Raybould or Jane Philpott, but when they were recruited, I knew Jody Wilson-Raybould by her reputation. She had a stellar reputation, and Jane Philpott was just a fantastic catch as a candidate. So obviously, their decision to leave hurts the party. The questions that I was asking, and I do write a column for the Hill Times, and so I did write at one point a column saying I thought Trudeau made a mistake in demoting her, Jody Wilson-Raybould. But then when I saw her testimony before the Justice Committee, it became increasingly clear that she doesn't necessarily want to play as a team player, and politics is a team business, and cabinet is a team business, and caucus is a team business. And I think when Jane Philpott decided to join her, I found the whole thing rather strange. She was resigning, and Jane Philpott was in her apartment receiving calls for her resignation, but she stayed in cabinet for almost 2 weeks, and we had this sort of drip, drip, drip of negative information against the government, and I just don't understand what their game plan is. Are they there to put the Tories in power, or not sure? It doesn't seem to be too clear.
Okay, but so they've characterized their actions as taking a principled stand against inappropriate political interference. So,
Yeah.
so they quit. What's wrong with standing up for their principles?
If they did have those principles, they wouldn't be sitting in a caucus of a leader who they've stated publicly they have no confidence in.
Yeah, is that a big problem for you?
Well, I think it's not logical. I mean, the biggest price to pay for leaving the cabinet, yes, you lose some money, you lose some perks, but you also lose an awful lot of stress. And Jody Wilson-Raybould sounded like she was very taken aback by stress. She mentioned in Justice Committee that she took 11 meetings and that was too much. I think that people have to reflect on the fact that these two fantastic women came to Parliament with zero political experience, and sometimes it gets pretty hot in there. But if they're not willing to play as part of the team, they should step aside. I'm not sure why they'd want to be in a caucus with a leader they obviously have no respect.
Okay, so let me parse that a bit. I mean, let's pick up on why they're staying and whether they should stay in a moment. But talk to me about the political pressure. Based on what you heard described by Jody Wilson-Raybould, is that inappropriate political pressure if you're a cabinet minister and the Justice Minister and the Attorney General of Canada refusing to back down to pressure to look at intervening in a criminal prosecution of SNC-LAVALIN?
Yes, completely. She spoke to no one inside by her own testimony, she said she received the report from the chief prosecutor, and it was a split decision. It was not a unanimous decision. And if you remember in the Justice Committee, she seemed far more concerned about who leaked that information than the fact that there was more than one opinion. She stated to the Justice Committee that she took a meeting with the Prime Minister and made her decision before she took the meeting. So when you're in cabinet and when you are looking at something like a deferred prosecution agreement, you do have a responsibility to speak to caucus and colleagues. She was complaining about 11 meetings. I mean, when I was doing copyright, we had 89 registered lobbyists. We took 150 meetings. Right. 11 meetings, nothing on an issue that involves 9,000 jobs.
Right, but in terms of the role of the Prime Minister, she says in one of those meetings, the Prime Minister confirmed for her that this was her decision to take. So why would she have to consult him?
It is her decision to take as Justice Minister, but she has a as Attorney General, but she has a responsibility to hear other opinions. As soon as she left the cabinet, she hired a lawyer to tell her how she could talk. Okay, she went to a retired Supreme Court justice to get information on how she could speak. When she was asked by several people,
in fairness, though, at the same time, the Prime Minister was consulting the new Attorney General to see what they could allow her to say.
And I'm not objecting to that, but I'm saying she was asked by several people, including the Finance Minister, the Prime Minister, and others in his office, can you not seek an outside legal opinion, which is perfectly legal and would confirm her refusal to proceed? She refused.
Okay.
There were 9,000 jobs at stake. It's an issue. A deferred prosecution issue is a big issue. for lots of families in the country. And people keep saying it's a Quebec company. There are more people working for SNC-LAVALIN outside Quebec than in Quebec. And why would you, as a minister, not be willing to at least listen to the input of your colleagues? She made her decision within less than a week of receiving the report. She also told the Justice Committee that she had made up her mind before she took any meetings from ministers. And that's why she told the finance minister to back off, because she decided and she wasn't willing to take any input.
Okay, you've tweeted the Prime Minister should lance the Boylan caucus. I presume that means you believe you should kick them out of caucus. I mean, what are the political ramifications of that, and should that matter? Everybody's talking about the optics of kicking them out of caucus right now and how bad that would be. You don't think that should that figure into this, or do you think you should kick them out?
I think he has to listen to what the caucus has to say. And remember, Jody Wilson-Raybould kept copious notes of all of her meetings with everyone. When you go to caucus, you're supposed to be able to speak freely, speak truth to power without somebody else taking notes and reporting you out. How can they be trusted to do that when they've already shown that in all of the meetings that they took? And I keep asking, what's the end game? This government has been the most progressive government in terms of Indigenous issues, in terms of women's issues. And what Jody Wilson-Raybould and also Jane Philpott have succeeded in doing in the short term is damaging the Liberal brand. Who are they trying to help? I don't get it. And I do believe if they're as ethical as they say that they are, then they should voluntarily themselves get out of the Liberal caucus, because you can't work for a boss who you've told the world you don't believe in.
Okay, let's finish on this. There's some suggestion the Prime Minister may be considering a changing tact here and stop describing what happened as a difference of opinion between his office and Jody Wilson-Raybould, and instead will say publicly, or could say publicly, that his office did push too hard and shouldn't have. Some sort of contrition here. Do you believe that's the way he should go?
I think he should speak the truth that he knows, and hopefully Gerald Butts will do that tomorrow. I don't think this is about messaging control. This is about reassuring the 30-plus loyal members of the cabinet and the loyal members of the caucus that two renegades are not going to be able to take down the whole party. Jody Wilson-Raybould's father was out in the media ruminating publicly 3 weeks ago about how she could take down the government and how she plans possibly to still run as Prime Minister. So her father's out saying this on the news. You kind of wonder what's the end game here. And I'm not to say that she hasn't done a very good job, but she's not a saint, and Trudeau is not a sinner. And I think it's been kind of turned on its end, because most people are not looking at the fact that a legal deferred prosecution agreement is set up so that thousands of people whose jobs could be at risk are not taken away from them because of the bad acts of a few individuals that have already been criminally convicted in another country.
All right, Sheila Copps, thank you for your time today. It's good to speak to you. We'll talk again.
Nice to talk to you, Peter.